We're going to continue our look at the four bodhisattva vows, using as our principal text for that Shohaku Okumura's book, Living by Vow. And we left off last week. I just kind of briefly introduced you to the notion of the three minds, which comes actually from a fascicle of Dogen's, from his instructions to the Tenzo book. And those three minds being joyful mind, nurturing mind, sometimes referred to as parental mind, and magnanimous mind. So in the context of that particular fascicle of Dogen's, he was referencing the attitude that should be brought into the kitchen by the Tenzo, the way the Tenzo cares for the food, and through the food, the way the Tenzo is caring for the community at large. But of course, these instructions aren't limited just to the preparation of food. These instructions concerning the three minds apply to every aspect of our practice. So Dogen saw this as being a natural outgrowth of our Zazen practice. So the three minds and the practice of Zazen are not distinct things. That through the practice of Zazen, we allow to come forth, to manifest joyful mind, nurturing mind, and magnanimous mind. So there's no separation there. So what I wanted to do this evening, having already introduced that last Thursday, I just wanted to say a few more things, beginning with a point that Shohaku addresses, which I think is a really important item to be aware of. And that's this to have one of the three minds being joyful mind. You know, we can have an understanding that joy is just part of our every single moment. And that's not quite right. We can misunderstand that. And of course, if we do misunderstand that and people begin practicing and they're not finding that to be the case, they'll think they've been sold a bill of goods and off they'll go. At least for them, it doesn't work out that way. But this connects to the Buddhist teaching of the six realms, with one of those realms, of course, being the hell realm, one of those realms being the heavenly realm. And the heavenly realm is what we want to look at in the context of joyful mind. So in the heavenly realm, beings with that existence have no concerns. Everything's good. Everything's taken care of. No anxieties, no reasons to be angry. Everything's just really nice. And of course, Zen teaching, I think Buddhist teaching more generally speaking, is that that's really not the best place for us. That there's some real benefit to our overall existence to have dukkha. So we can take a very different look at this compared to, let's say, the Christian notion of the fall, that it's dukkha is some sort of punishment from a higher power. Rather, we can look at dukkha as being what brings us to practice, So we could have, if I set up a sort of dichotomy here, heavenly realm, it's always joyful, but it's kind of, you might say, shallow. Doesn't go very deep because everything's good. So why would you be driven to investigate deeper, more profound matters? The saying in that realm might be just relax and enjoy your life. Why trouble yourself? But thanks to dukkha, we do trouble ourselves. So this is the arising of bodhicitta. And as a result, we're capable of much more profound experiences. We can actually come to see the vast interdependence of all beings, to have the experience of the sense of a greater self, and in that way experience a deeper form of joy that wouldn't be there if we wouldn't have had that dukkha to begin with, to set us on this path. So in terms of the joyful mind, I think that's a really important point to bear in mind. It makes us look at a teaching like Suzuki Roshi's about everything's perfect and complete, just the way it is, just the way you are. And of course, for people that have had some Buddhist practice, they'll go, but what about dukkha? Are you calling that perfect and complete? Of course, as I'm explaining it here, yeah, absolutely. That is a vital part of this whole picture. Be very grateful for your dukkha. Don't turn away from it. How many teachings are there about facing your dukkha, being open to it, accepting of it? It's essential. It's really what makes us spiritual beings, rather than just really happy, pretty good people and everything's going great. Yeah. Another one final comment I'd like to make in that regard is just think of it in terms of people. Let's say you have a chance to spend some time with one of two people. One of them maybe has had everything and they're just really content. The other one has gone through some challenging times, has certainly known his share of dukkha, his or her share of dukkha. But they've also got a really beautiful life. So who would you feel drawn to spend some time with? I know who I would. And I think that's probably pretty universal. Us to really develop some depth. And that depth in Buddhist terminology can be seen as our connectedness. That we understand so thoroughly. And then Shohaku next turns his attention to the important matter of Sangha. And his expression that he begins this with is the Buddhist Sangha is a place where people can escape from artificial ways of thinking and return to reality. One of the great blessings of this practice is to have that kind of community where rather than just having a focus on conventionalities of getting things accomplished, but to actually be able to return to reality, where people can be comfortable opening themselves to hear about others' experience and also to share their own experiences. To have that kind of a community that one can regularly spend time with. We should never take that for granted. It's so, so precious, so important to our well-being to have that. And where each individual within the Sangha is so vitally important. For her or himself, just as they are. It's not about something they're going to be able to do for us. It's simply their being with us. Period. Certainly, there are things to be done. Don't get me wrong. We welcome financial gifts and people playing roles, and those are all important too. But the foundation, the bedrock for the whole thing is just that honoring of each person and their Buddha nature, so that we can come together as a community and honor each other's Buddha nature, their interconnectedness, the fact that there is no separation ultimately. And we know that. We know that. And of course, Sangha goes beyond just Crooked River Zen or any other particular community. Literally, wherever we find ourselves can be Sangha in this deeper sense of community, where we can return to reality. This means carrying our practice with us throughout each and every day, wherever you are. Then the world and every group within the world becomes Sangha, and we practice accordingly. And that's a beautiful way to be able to carry ourselves out there in the world. Of course, we have different responsibilities in different settings, so our actions change, our behavior, depending on where we are, but we recognize that at bottom, underlying it all, it's Sangha, and we're practicing together. It's not dependent upon sharing the same precise vows, like a Zen Sangha would, or the exact same practices. That what binds us together, the interconnectedness, transcends any of those particularities. But yet the particularities are how we manifest it. So there are these individual forms of practice that we follow. And we'll get into that a little more on Saturday when we talk about actual forms. But not to get caught up by them, because the particular nature of them is not the essential matter. It's the fact that our practice needs to be made manifest in myriad ways, and not just one small way. And by doing that, hopefully it helps us to allow our practice to flow through other forms that maybe have nothing to do with sex. But yet we can fill any form with our practice, with the Eightfold Path, with the paramitas, any way you want to kind of structure your practice. We can bring that to everything. But they're only made real through our actions, through our practice. So then we get a little bit of Uji in this section of the chapter where Shohaku talks about how, as far as our attitude is concerned, eternity and this moment are one. Again, no separation. Because of the emptiness of all things, the emptiness of this moment makes it one with all moments, with eternity. In fact, this moment can't exist except within the context of eternity. What would an isolated moment be? I look forward to hearing somebody's description of that. It's totally dependent upon eternity. Has to be, for it to make any sense whatsoever. And hence, also our practice in each moment is also one with the practice of all Buddhas and ancestors. Same basic way of our lives unfolding. Very similar to the relationship between the moment and eternity, our lives and all beings. No separation. Because our lives can't exist in isolation. Again, if anybody can give me an account of what that looks like, I look forward to seeing. So to have that understanding, that realization, is to be in touch, to return to reality as it truly is, and to live our lives in accord with that, and to have that understanding. So, hence, Shohaku equates this with the practice of Zazen, this sense that when we sit, we are one with all beings, all time and all space, with everything. So I referenced, I think it was last week, or maybe on Saturday, Walt Whitman, I am vast, I contain multitudes. Well, it's our Zazen. We become vast. And we become interconnected with all the multitudes, the myriad multitudes. And just a few more comments on parental mind or nurturing mind, connected again to this notion of Sangha, but not Sangha limited to a particular group, but transcending group identity, to simply signify the fact that we are dependent upon others, regardless of the groups involved. We are dependent. So Shohaku puts it, when we live together, caring and being cared for are the same. And hopefully through your practice, you get a sense of that. Through caring for others, we have that sense because we are one with the myriad things. So if we're giving expression to care, to nurturing, we're also part of that. We're not apart from that. So we feel it. And I'm not talking about feeling it as a small self, like becoming prideful about the good things you do. I mean it at a more foundational level, that it just feels good at a much deeper place, not small self, egoic self. It feels good to do things that are of service to others. And of course, if we look at it scientifically, uh, evolutionary theorists would be in full agreement with that. It's so clear how that helps a species survive and thrive, to have that open awareness of interdependence. Life forms manifest that even if they don't seem to manifest consciousness. That really does seem to be baked into the nature of all things. The caring for others. There's that notion that plants are not non-sentient, but we're starting to realize we really were very mistaken about that. They actually do care for each other, and they can make distinctions. If they're being threatened by a pest or disease, they send signals out for others, kind of an early warning system, so they can maybe take some steps. This is the plant world. Not that many years ago, most people would really scratch their heads over comments like this and say, "You've been smoking too much cannabis." But actually, it's the truth. A little research demonstrates that. So this parental mind, this caring mind, really runs deep through all beings. It's amazing. So they and Dogen, points this out time and time again about the Dharma teachings of the non-sentient beings that we can open ourselves to and learn a great deal by just paying attention with an open heart and mind. So this parental mind and the practice of it is so, so important. Because the plant world also manifests practices such as Shohaku's description of parents, how parents earnestly consider their child's growth without concern for their own wealth or poverty. And we see that manifested in the world at large. That extreme, a devotion to caring, that which exists between parent and child. It runs through all things. So we can bring this to all of our activities. One of the great sources of our mental dukkha is when we're out on the roadways, right? But to have that sense every time we're out there, that becomes our sangha, our fellow travelers, and to just be able to practice caring, to care for them in the way that we drive. So our mindfulness becomes part of that caring. So there's a selfish aspect to defensive driving, but there's also a caring aspect. Well, I would drive defensively even if I was in this impregnable vehicle. I couldn't be harmed. Yeah. Try to avoid others who, through their recklessness, might strike me because they would be harmed. So it's not just contingent upon any harm to me. I'll still be practicing only misnamed defensive driving. It wouldn't be in defense. It would be to protect others from harm. So, and then that brings us to the third mind of magnanimous mind. And in contemporary Zen practice, I think a term that is a little less imposing than magnanimous, which has been referred to as big mind. And part of big or magnanimous mind is that it's not a biased or contentious mind. Because if we bring our limited view and make that into something a little more substantial than just my limited view, now we build the foundation for contention and bias, strong bias so strong that it's really not even open to hearing other accounts, other ways of perhaps seeing a certain scenario. So with part of magnanimous mind involves seeing the whole picture. So we were talking before tonight's sitting about how high schools used to have debate clubs. I can remember that. And we would learn how to debate a position that might not be ours. That's kind of key to mastering the practice of debate, to be able to practice magnanimous mind. How could you present somebody else's view and really kind of put yourself in their shoes? How do they see the world? I mean, it's such an important practice. And we were skeptical if it's still being done much anymore, since debate itself, sadly, seems to be falling from general practice. Rather, it's just kind of throwing daggers out there with no openness whatsoever. So to be able to see the greater situation, the whole picture, and to actually gain practice at that. Because we're in a society now with social media and just the functioning of algorithms online, that we kind of become siloed. We get caught up in silos, and we can really have to make a serious intentional effort to break out of those. You really have to try, because it won't come naturally. The forces are all designed to keep us within our limited view and to reinforce it. So it's important to be aware of that, because we have a propensity for that already. Even with our practice, there's still that propensity. And now that is getting fed and fed and fed. So mindfulness, awareness is all the more vital. And to try and keep coming back to the need to see the greater picture, that there are many other silos. Maybe it helps just to realize there are more than two, because we seem to be drawn to dualities. And if we accept the fact that that's a total fiction, obviously, there are many more. Many more. As soon as you go out and talk to people, you find out, well, they might have a certain position, but where do they stand within that position? There are all kinds of different shadings and everything. So many silos. We need to appreciate that. And again, I think if we get out of that dualistic mindset, it's a big help in that regard. So it's not us and them. Because us, that changes.
It's just us.
I'm part of many us's.
I contain multitudes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another lesson to us in terms of this not fitting within a silo. We just don't. Yeah, even if you think you do, you don't. You can't, because there are multitudes, and it's just the nature of our individualized experience that everybody is unique. It's not to deny commonalities, but when you take all the ranges of different commonalities that each person carries within themselves, and then look at the greater whole, it's like, wow. There are a lot more than just this. Right-wing fundamentalists. We have the labels and we put them in their box. But there's so much more there. So much more. They might fit that description, but then have some other aspects that seem to draw a whole different picture. But those aren't aspects we generally pay any attention to. So we need to understand each person, not only perfect and complete just as they are, but perfectly unique just as they are. They can't be categorized, classified. Doesn't work. It's divorced from the reality. So, bottom line with magnanimous mind is, as Shohaku expresses this, he says, the attitude of magnanimous mind is no separation. That's how we can really get to the bottom of it, of what is magnanimous mind. Everybody is within it. Nobody's excluded. No separation. Not for me, nor for anybody else. A good reminder, a mindfulness practice. When we start feeling separation, remember that. That's the practice of magnanimous mind. And of course, that relates to our Zazen practice, this total openness. not separate from anything. We're not pushing anything away. No judgmental mind. So all we can see flowing out of our Zazen. This is not a different practice from Zazen. It's part of it. In fact, Shohaku says the attitude of magnanimous mind is the same as that of our Zazen. Resist the pull of discrimination and accept the situation as one. And the placement of the three minds within this chapter on the bodhisattva vows, Shohaku suggests that our vow functions as the three minds. Consider that. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. Joyful mind, nurturing mind, magnanimous mind. They're one. Zazen, vow, the three minds. It's all one. And they are all ways that we can become grounded in reality as it is, rather than being trapped within our limited views, which will still keep coming up. They kind of have to, because they're part of our life. And that's okay. We don't need to eliminate them. I don't recommend it. But we need to see them for what they are. As Dogen puts it, becoming enlightened about your delusion. To see your delusion, that it's part of our lives. That's not the problem. The problem is that we don't see it as delusion. It functions for us. It allows us to do things. Many of those things are actually downright helpful for people by making distinctions, treating things as being separate. But recognize that just because things enable us to get something accomplished, that doesn't make them these foundational spiritual truths. We're treading a different path here, one of deeper understanding, one that allows us to address this problem of dukkha. Not to eliminate every problem in our life, but to recognize that these problems are just part of our life. To accept them and see them as dharma gates. So they become part of our bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Well, I'm one of those beings, right? So I can practice for myself and for others. So I think we're beginning to approach 8:30, so I think this is a good point for me to close down. This brings us to the section that's titled Vow as Sangha. We've kind of touched on that a bit here this evening. So we'll pick up there next Thursday, and we'll go into that in a little more detail. And then we'll perhaps look to kind of wrap up this chapter. So let me bow out and open it up for any questions, thoughts you might have. Go ahead.
I'd like to go back to the joyful mind.
Yes.
This is at the bottom of page 37. Picking up at the paragraph about cooking and preparing food.
Mm-hmm.
Each moment is perfect in itself, not a step to the next one. Each moment is one with eternity. This is the attitude we should maintain. The same is true of Zazen. When we sit in this posture, we are one with all beings, all time, and all space. It's all very dynamic, not limited to one single person or one moment of work. Even though we and our work are small, they are connected with the whole universe. When we are without a limited attitude or purpose, our work has no limits. That's like, yeah. For some reason, that's a theme for me for the, I don't know, past couple of months, is that idea of the simultaneity of sitting with all beings through all times, past, present, and future. I've been really feeling that in my sits. So reading that was like, okay, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Shohaku with term verification.
Yes.
So it's one thing to read,
Yeah.
but you're actually getting that from your Zazen.
Yeah.
Yeah. See some people looking through their text, so I won't chant out until I have a hunch there's one more passage we should look at.
I have
Mark.
one.
Yeah,
It had to do with the line about not being contentious,
yeah,
and I went to dictionary.com and looked up contentious,
yeah.
and I found a little opening. I found a little, because it does say, to not be about being contentious and being argumentative and causing strife or quarrelsome.
Mm-hmm.
But then further down, it talks about disputes and controversy and contending, litigation, so pertaining to causes. But I think as I was kind of like thinking about the word, I thought about right speech.
Yeah,
And
good.
so I kind of didn't want to ask my question or for your clarification. It just sort of clarified, like if we were being contentious, to do it in a spirit of right speech and, sorry about my barking dogs. But anyhow, I was going to ask you to help clarify contentious, but I think I resolved it
There's
with
that.
our practice. Yeah, because we live in contentious times, and it's like just because we're practicing doesn't mean that we're a doormat or that we're just sitting back and accepting everything that's going on.
Yeah.
you know. Anyhow, I don't know. I don't have a question.
Yeah. Well, but thanks for the comment about we live in contentious times, because it kind of harkens back to what I was saying about the logarithms and social media, and the fact that contention is such a powerful driver for the way our economy is the basis for its functioning now. It's all based on getting people's attention, and you get their attention best when you create a sense of contention. Then they'll immediately click. So we need to, again, practice some mindfulness. The only way we can change that is by not going there any longer, because they're just automatic processes. These algorithms are going to respond to whatever we're doing and our psychological makeup. So, I mean, this is where this practice, why it runs so deep for us, is because it is kind of rewiring us so that we maybe don't respond the way we've been conditioned to. That if something gets put in front of us that creates contention, maybe instead of automatically clicking, we go, oh no, I don't want to put my energy into that. Let me go on to the next email or whatever, or just shut the thing off. Yeah. We can do that. And that's the only way it's going to change. So each action does have an impact, and we just need to keep doing that with great intention and awareness.
I don't know if you've ever seen Judy Woodruff's Crossroads in America segment. She, you know, she's taking contentious subjects and she takes road trips. Since she left her job as anchor of PBS NewsHour, she has this little side project where it's called Crossroads in America, and she goes and meets with people, you know, throughout the country, and discusses contentious subjects in a really mindful and respectful way that brings people together and cuts out the angry, hateful rhetoric.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, we can do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we need to see what we have in common. And when we take a contentious stand, that's just building our sense of separation. That's what contention is kind of about, rather than seeking understanding.
Right.
So we have to begin by trying to understand, how does somebody take such a position? So that we maybe put ourselves in a position where we could participate in just a training debate, where we would debate from that individual's position and defend it. What great exercise would that be? Huh? Maybe that's the sort of practice that some of our larger, more vital Zen centers need to take up, featuring debates like that. That'd be fabulous.
I was just thinking about how coming to disagreements or contentious things it's really seductive to be quarrelsome and to, you want, there's something that just sort of bubbles up inside,
Yeah.
that it's a real challenge to put a lid on, put a cap on that. I guess it's basically strong emotions.
Yeah, it's almost like a sporting event, where you're trying to be victorious over somebody. The good guys, the bad guys.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, maybe we better go ahead and shake out then. So we do the ego sattva vows, which are the last page of our chapter, page 32. I vow to myself and to each of you to commit myself daily to the healing of our world and the welfare of all beings, to live on earth more lightly and less violently in the food, products, and energy I consume, to draw strength and guidance from the living earth, the ancestors, the future generations, and my brothers and sisters of all species, to support others in our work for the world, and to ask for help when I need it, to pursue a daily practice that clarifies my mind, strengthens my heart, and supports me in observing these vows. All right. Nick and Mark, thanks for joining us.